You may have been asking the question, how do I write a case statement for fundraising? Well, if you've wondered how to do that, stay tuned because in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you some ideas that'll help you get started. I'm here to answer your question about how do I write a case statement for fundraising? Anybody that knows me knows that I get up on my soapbox about case statements. You see, I don't feel like a nonprofit can be successful without doing a case statement. A case statement is that investment prospectus. It's the business plan is what it would be called in the for-profit world. But it's for the nonprofit world. It's the one that's going to grab that donor. It's our case for support. Our donor is going to feel like that we are the ones that they want to give their money to. I'm going to give you 3 things that I think are crucial when you are writing your case statement. The first thing that you should do is, if you don't have stories from your participants, quotes from your participants, your current donors, your board members, go get those. Do that the very first thing, and also get photos. If you haven't been gathering that, you need to gather that as part of the impact of how your organization makes a difference. I'm assuming that you're already doing that. Most organizations tell me that, oh yeah, I've got the stories. But then when it's time for us to write those up in the case statement, they aren't as easy to write up as we think they should be or could be if we've kept a good record of how people's lives have been changed because of what you do in your nonprofit. So that's the first thing that I would suggest you do, is to gather those stories. And if you've got them all over the place and they're on little yellow sticky notes or whatever, get them typed into your computer and get them in one place, because those stories are going to be sprinkled throughout your case statement. Now, the second thing is what most people would have said, oh, you need to start with an outline. Well, I agree, you need an outline, but you need to gather those stories first. Here's why. Because those stories are going to help you tell your story. They're going to help you tell the case for why to support your organization, because you're going to see common themes run throughout those stories. And those common themes are going to be the things that you really use to grab your donors and your potential donors. That's what's going to tug at their heartstrings. It's how you have made a difference for people through your organization. And the outline includes everything that your nonprofit does that would make a difference to a donor. So, I mean, like, what does that mean? Well, that means that thing number 3, it is, what are you asking them for? So if your whole case statement is about, let's say, helping kids in an after-school program, and then you get to the end, to the ask, and the ask is that you need money to build a new facility, it doesn't connect. I mean, it doesn't feel like, wait a minute, what? Instead, the entire case statement, and it's not a one-page front and back. This case statement's, even if you're a new nonprofit, it's going to be about 10 to 20 pages, because it's, when you include the pictures and the stories and all of that, it all leads up to your clear ask at the end. So what is it that you are raising money for? What are you trying to do a case for support for? Now, here's a couple different nuances to the case statement. Yes, I say an organization needs a case statement. It needs to be pretty much evergreen. So evergreen meaning just like an evergreen tree. It stays constant, it stays consistent. However, some smaller nonprofits who have never done an annual report, a gratitude report, an impact report, whatever you want to call it, we have married the case statement and that into one, the annual report and case statement into one. That means it's not evergreen. That means you're going to have to redo it every year or every other year. But what it does is it helps those organizations not have to do two different documents. Normally, I'd say do an evergreen case statement and it will stay good for several years. But then if you're doing some type of a campaign, so it's different over here, it's probably a part of this case statement, but it's still different. You'll want to do a case statement for that campaign. Now, what does that look like? Well, it may be that you are talking about how important it is to get behavioral health in this valley, and that we don't have trained therapists and we don't have people who are willing to do that because we don't have the money to pay them. So that campaign may be one that we need money to hire therapists because the suicide rate is so high in the valley, or whatever. That is what this separate case statement is going to be. It's not going to be the case statement for the organization. And again, this case statement, that's the one that talks about the campaign that you're doing, that case statement will not be evergreen. It will have an expiration date, so when that campaign closes, but it will be so specific to that campaign. And most likely, the talk of that campaign will be in your regular case statement, because you will say, this is something we're working on right now. And that may even be your ask. Those are the three things that I really think need to be in a case statement that will help you write it to help you get going. Stories, photos, an outline of what it is that you're talking about, the impact that you're making, and number three, being clear about the ask and being sure that you have an ask in it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I do a whole series on fundraising, different parts of fundraising, and it's totally free. All you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you get to see all of these when they come out. And I just appreciate so much you being here today and subscribing to my channel. Thank you.